I know at the hospital, and as I've said in the bulletin, one of the first things the patients ask for when I meet them for the first time is a rosary. Or else they'll lose theirs in their bedding and they'll take it up to Phoenix. I don't know. They must have a huge rosary room for all the rosaries lost in the linens. But we constantly have to keep giving rosaries to our patients. So if you have old rosaries, and they also ask for medals around their neck, and they can also tie them on their bedstead so that they don't lose them. But when you're that ill, it's important to have something physical about your faith present to you. And the nurses and the doctors, no matter what their faith, they're always very respectful about the Holy Rosary. We had a Protestant nurse who found a rosary in a room when they were cleaning it, and she pinned it to the wall as you walked into the ICU unit. So it's right in a place where everybody looks at that wall because it's where the fire extinguisher is. She just pinned it up there. And you know, it stayed there for almost 6 months. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? Nobody's removed it. And also we place holy cards of the Sacred Heart and St. Therese in the little windows where the nurses can look in at the patients to give them privacy. And even though the Catholic patient has moved out, many of the Protestant patients say, I want that picture of Jesus left up. And there are many Protestants who have the picture of the little flower on their desks and in their homes. Because when I go see them and talk to them, I always say, now, you know, I'm going to give you St. Therese, and this is not proselytizing, but when you see this, you know that I'm praying for your health, and there's a lot of people praying for your health. So these outward signs are extremely important to us because God made us very fleshy and very earthy and very tactile. There have been studies on what happens if you were told right now you could never, ever be touched again in your life. Nobody will kiss you. Nobody will embrace you. No one will even touch you. What would it be like? It would be inhuman, would it not? God made us. He loved what he made. And he became what he made. He became flesh and blood for us. To say there is something very beautiful about the incarnation, the making of a human being, the beauty of a human life. Jesus walks among us fully human, fully divine, the soul of a man. What does he do? He reaches out to people. He just doesn't give them a little sign. He reaches out to them. He takes his spittle. He uses the earth to make a paste. He touches their ears. He says, little girl, get up. And one of the most beautiful ones is one of his first miracles. And that is when he goes to Peter's house and Peter's mother-in-law is ill. What does Jesus do? In the Greek, see, we miss it in the English. The English translation misses it. In the Greek, it actually tells what he did. The Lord Jesus inclined himself to her. Now, in the Greek, to incline oneself meant that Jesus got on his knees and put this woman's back and neck in the crook of his arm. Now, who is Jesus? Oh, come on, catechism people. Who is Jesus? Ah, right. Second person of the Blessed Trinity. He is God. God so loved the world. God so loves us. He's getting down on God's knees and lifting us up. Touch, warmth, security. Remember when you were little? Okay, even when you're big. When you need that assurance, it's okay, it's all right. Sometimes when the patients in the hospice are dying, they're quite emaciated, and they think they're quite ugly. So I deliberately sit on the bed with them, and I put them in the crook of my arm. You are not ugly to God. You are not ugly to God. God gave us something very beautiful in our tradition, started by the early monks of the desert, when they went out after the red martyrdom was over to do what was called the white martyrdom, to go out into the desert and do penance. And what they would do, they learned all 150 psalms, and they would repeat the psalms over and over and over as they were working, as they were taking their wares into the little village and back again. It was constant. So then they started with little pebbles in a pouch when they were sitting, counting. Then it was play on string. But it was good St. Dominic who brings the rosary to perfection in the sense that it grounds us, and he is inspired by the Blessed Virgin Mary to ground people in the truth during the Albigensian heresy. It was one of those heresies that spoke about Jesus wasn't truly human. He only appeared to be. God couldn't condescend to be a human being. The Church fought back, and Dominic's way, through the inspiration of his love of the Blessed Virgin Mary, comes back with the Rosary and the meditation on the mysteries of the life of Christ. For people who had to do day labor, their days were long and hard. They could not go to daily Mass. They certainly didn't receive daily Eucharist. That was a privilege of certain religious who had been religious for years and years. They were out in the fields. And when you hear somebody preaching a non-truth, when you go over and over and over the roses of the decades, you hear the truth. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. He was presented in the temple before his Father. And the prophetess and the prophet say, now I can go to rest. It has been fulfilled. And he was born in a humble stable. In a trough, a manger, is where animals eat. He is the symbol of what it is to live, to be nourished by God himself. And instead of a manger, he places himself in the gold of a ciborium and on our tongue.